It's a beautiful morning. We've had a few cool days this week, and today is warming up, so it's probably going to be nice and sunny and warm for a while. We may not. Well, we'll get a few more cool spring days. I would assume, but we're getting closer to summer now. It's May, the early May now, so birds are chirping away. Oh, environment has such a major impact on us. How we think about things, how we feel about things, how we feel about ourselves. It's just an extremely important aspect of life, is what we're surrounded by. So in one sense, like this natural surrounding, that's an environment, and it gives us a certain state of mind and a certain feeling, and it can be a very peaceful place to be. But as humans, the people we're around in that environment, our social environment, is extraordinarily impactful. And so there's just so many different skill sets and things you need to learn about that. But the two things that you need to be willing to do are, one is to set your own goals and values independent of other people, and be able to refer back to those whenever you're questioning the situation that you're in, and so that you have your own compass. And it's best to do that and start doing that while you're young, and then you can let that change and evolve as you get older. But when you're young, you typically have a pretty good, spiritual compass. You have an innate idea of what right and wrong is, and you need to, can also look back at the old history. The books and things that have been around and stood the test of time are often some of the best references to, because newer stuff can be great as well, but you have to have something to kind of measure that by. And so books like Meditations by Marcus Aurelius, of course the Bible, but the Bible is complicated and it's got so many different stories and so many different interpretations. You just have to. One of the things about the Bible is you can read it and you can absorb the messages and then kind of come back to them later. A book like Meditations by Marcus Aurelius, that's much more straightforward and to the point. There's not as much that you have to question and reevaluate. But the big points of the Bible, like the Golden Rule and the Ten Commandments, and those things, they're very solid and easy, and they're straightforward. Some of the stories in the Bible are much more metaphorical, and so not always the easiest thing to read and to set your. You certainly have to. Sometimes you need to live a little bit of life before you can understand the Bible in many ways. But the Golden Rule and the Ten Commandments and those kinds of things, and the Book of Solomon is very good, and the writings and the reinterpretations of Aristotle and the Greek philosophers can be great things to read. And some of those things are good places to start. And then the other thing you really need to be able to do is you need to be able to set those goals and you set your own compass so that you can be willing to, even people that are close to you, you can ignore them if they're being negative or trying to control you and those kinds of things. Then the other thing you have to be willing to do is you have to be willing to just know that you can change your environment, that you don't have to settle with where you're at and what you're doing. You're free to be your own person, to get up and leave, to pack up. I'm not saying abandon people, but I'm saying you can say, I'm not being my best person here, and in order to be my best person, I got to be with a different in a different place, in a different environment where better, more positive things are happening. And then in the end, that will benefit those other people that you might love, but just are not positive people, or not being, not allowing you to be your best person. That doesn't mean you have to give up on them, but it also means you don't have to be influenced by them. We have these neurons in our brain called mirror neurons, and they can act very fast. Within just minutes and hours and days, your whole mindset can be shifted from one way or the other. So that's why great coaches bring out the best in people. You don't hear of great coaches being, they may have a harsh side to them. They may be tough, and every one of them may have their own quirks and personalities. But at the end of the day, coaches, for example, that are great coaches, they just know how to bring out the best in people. They know how to, in the end, bring things back around to positivity, and that's key. That's so key. You wouldn't want to go climb a mountain or do some major journey or task surrounded by negative people who are full of doom and gloom. It's okay to be realistic about your conditions, but not to just automatically perceive negativity, or so this will lead to failure or those kinds of things. You want to have, in order to move forward, you want to have a realistic but positive spirit about yourself. We need to be grateful. Marcus Aurelius talks a lot about that. At the end of the day, you have to be grateful for this world, and that's a positive viewpoint. So you have to take that stance that we have a reason for why we're here, and not accomplishing your goal specifically when you try is better than not trying at all, within the sense that it's within a rational way of doing it, right? Obviously, you don't want to, and that's just rational. You don't really have to. People don't really have to tell you that. You're not going to do something super dangerous just because you say you can't. No, that's not. But that goes without saying, really. A smart person like you knows that. So you set your goals where your heart leads you, and do it with positivity, and then learn from the roadblocks and what sometimes people call failures, but usually very successful people don't use the word failure in a complete sense. They use it in a temporary sense. So a failure is a temporary kind of thing, not a failure. In other words, learning and experience is in and of itself a win. You win when you learn and you experience things that you can use to do the next thing or the next step better. Yeah, I love you.